Wow, the situation in Toretsk is getting harder for the Russian army, and the Ukraine there is on a full-scale counterattack, getting more and more ground of that town. Here you can see several of the attack vectors from the Ukrainian side, at least 4. Well, at the same time, Russians sent some of their reinforcements to the area. They tried to regain the lost positions, but for now, not effectively. And as you can see, the part of the Russian groups are under the threat to be encircled. I'm speaking about this one and this one right in its central place of Toretsk. And according to the recent reports, indeed some of the small groups of the Russian armed forces have been already encircled. A Ukrainian counterattack was well planned and organized, and you know, on February the 7th, Russians already claimed the full control over Toretsk, but as you can see, it's not even close to be like that. Ukraine already took the initiative. At the same time, Russians are using their Krasnopol guided artillery shells trying to hit Ukrainian positions. We have the confirmation about it from the Osinit analytics, and geolocation is confirmed. So now the main question here is whether Ukraine is capable to cut this Russian group and this Russian group. It's very close to do so. Like especially in this area, there are just a couple of quarters to cross to join Ukrainian armed forces and cut Russians out. Well, in this area it's more difficult since it's the industrial place where Russians may hold defense for a very long time, because there is the underground rooms. Because there are many of the underground rooms. But in this area Ukraine has all of the chances to be successful, and probably we're gonna see lots of the Russian prisoners of war in the coming days. If it happens, it would be a biggest failure for the Russian army this year. Well, so far the biggest one is in Pokrov's direction, where Russians are forced to leave their positions and retreat. And you know, Ukraine is also attacking in Sherbina, so here we have the confirmation that Russian forces surrendered to Ukrainian ones. Azov Brigade operates there. There was a GoPro video shared by one of Ukrainian soldiers where Ukrainians forced Russians to surrender. Good news, yes. Absolutely great. Plus, my friends, we also have pretty much good update from the deep state military map source. They say that the Ukrainian defense forces have pushed back the enemy near Sinkivka. It is Kharkiv Oblast, not far away from Kupiansk, so Sinkivka is here before Russians tried to go to Kupiansk. Assaulting from this direction, and now let's go with military map update. So it was yesterday and it is today. Awesome news. Before, Russians created some sort of the bridgehead in this forest, but with the help of the Ukrainian artillery, FPV drones, Russians were just forced to retreat. So Kupiansk still holds, and Sinkivka, well, Russians lost lots and lots of the vehicles out there in their useless attempts to get this small village under control. Somehow Ukraine still holds there. For more than a year, Russians actually trying to get this village. The last winter there were numerous of the attacks. All of those were repelled by Ukrainian defenders. Well, at the same time, Deep State also gives us the information about the Russian advancement not far away from Zolotarivka. So it was yesterday, it is today. Unfortunately, they took one field, part of the tree line, and this small forest spot. All of that happens at the border between Kharkiv and Luhansk oblasts. Not far away from Zolotarivka there is Bilohorivka. Russia also claimed the control over this settlement, but no, it's not like that for now. And before, Russians lost lots of the vehicles, as you might remember, trying to cross this river of Siversky Donets. But you know what, guys, it's the only Russian advancement for the last 24 hours. But the day before, Russians moved ahead in Kursk region. So yeah, 2 days ago, Ukrainian forces left those fields. So Kursk Oblast is shrinking, as you can see. Russians sent more of the reinforcements. The last month Ukraine gained more positions here and here, but Russians also gained positions in this area and also over here. So the battle is still very heavy in Kursk, but Russians are unable to liberate, let's say, their land. Near Pokrov's direction and Pokrov's town itself, Ukraine has several of the counterattack vectors, and Ukraine recently forced Russians to surrender in this place. We have the image showing how Ukrainian infantry is storming Russian trenches, Russian positions in the place, also forcing Russians to surrender. It's been geolocated by Osinit analytics with coordinates. The Ukrainian assault regiment Skala, which means rock, takes Russian prisoners of war entrenched in the northeast of Kotline. Kotline is over here. It really becomes the main target for Ukrainian offensive or counteroffensive. So Ukraine was really successful, almost fully liberating this village, and also attacking from this side and from this side, quite successful, as you saw. So Kotlina with this small factory will go under Ukrainian control, I guess, very soon. Near Andriivka and Constantinople, the battle is still ongoing. However, Russians stopped there for a moment because their main convoys were ambushed recently, so they gather more of the resources. My friends, before we go to the other news, I want to tell you that I'm very grateful for your kind support, especially when I speak about American politicians. Donald Trump, I think Elon Musk is already considered as a politician, not an entrepreneur. Maybe two in the same person, but for me he's just a delusional clown. So I speak the things as they are, as I think they are, and thank you guys for understanding my point of view, because we have 97% of the likes for every of the video, even then I tell about Donald Trump. I think that it is important to tell about that stuff because, you know, we should have some sort of the resistance to what is happening in the United States because it influences everyone. And yes, if you want to support the job that I do on YouTube, I also have Patreon. You may join me over there. The link is in the video description just below. Thank you so much for maintaining my motivation. It is something new, a trailer of memory in Russia being told by Audi Q8, I guess. And it's been taken to the school, and Russians, it seems like, very happy to see the pictures of their fallen soldiers, more pictures inside, so I guess kids would be definitely motivated to go for this war. Yeah, that's what will happen to you if you go there. Don't go there. Look, that is done by Ukrainian defenders. They were fighting for their motherland, yeah, occupying Ukraine, indeed. Some of the Soviet flags as usual. The question for me is why not the Russian was Bukhanka or something like that? Why Audi? Audi is, by the way, the best thing in this video. Pretty much a standard video with Russian soldiers complaining that they are thrown to attacks, that they are wounded on those crutches. Yeah, guys, you may tell that I'm over-exaggerating, but no, there were numerous of the drone videos showing how Russian soldiers are going on attacks with those crutches. It is not happening everywhere, it depends, I guess, on local Russian commanders, but some of them are really crazy, sending literally everyone for mid-wave strikes. And obviously Russians are not very happy about that, but Russian TV, propaganda TV, would never show it. You may find it just on some of the Telegram channels in Russia. That's the only way to receive the information for them. And we have more complaints. Those Russian soldiers are saying that they would like to go to the prison, to spend like 3 up to 5 years, but not go on mid-wave attacks, but no one listens to them. Here the same story, group of Russians is going to the front line. Here you can see the crutch on the top. They openly say that they don't want to go to Ukraine, they would like even to go to the prison, they don't want to lose their lives, but documents were taken away from them and they don't know what to do. That's the real morale of the Russian army nowadays. And then I say those kind of the pictures, I understand that Putin doesn't want to finish this war. He still recruits lots of the mid-waves, they still send wounded personnel because they want really to achieve their goals, to take more and more ground. And the price Russians pay for it, it doesn't really matter for Putin. So there are no any signs for ceasefire negotiations. Actually, the fights are very intense. This is where Russia, again Ukraine, launched one more drone strike. Actually, for the last couple of nights there were several of the drone strikes on the Russian territory. The drones were flying to Moscow region and even hit something in St. Petersburg, really far away from Ukraine. But it seems like no refineries were hit for the last 48 hours, but 3 days ago the Russian oil infrastructure was hit, so Ukraine does it regularly. At the same time, Russia sends their drones to Ukraine also every night. And now let's touch some of the political news. President Zelensky went to United Kingdom to meet with Prime Minister Starmer and also to attend European meeting of security. Securing our future, they say. Well, after this nonsense that happened in the White House, which I think was staged by Donald Trump's team and Donald Trump himself, Zelensky and Ukraine got an enormous support from democratic countries, not just from the European Union, no, also from Canada, Japan. Many leaders created their posts on Twitter praising Ukrainian courage. and they also reinsure Ukraine for the continuation of support. The United Kingdom alone will transfer roughly £3 billion to Ukraine, which will be covered by the frozen Russian assets. Alright, UK, France and Ukraine agreed to work on ceasefire plan. It will be an alternate plan to Trump's plan. Because everyone understands that Trump took pro-Russian side. He wants to make a deal with Russia, and Ukraine is just an obstacle for him. For this reason, there is a huge gaslight towards Zelensky from White House administration, from far-right or right media, from Elon Musk and so on. So Waltz, who is a national security advisor of Trump, said today that America needs a Ukrainian leader with whom they're able to do business. Well, what can I say? Ukraine needs an American leader who is not an idiot. And here we have an interesting news shared. European Union will allocate hundreds of billions of euros to Ukraine. Hundreds of billions. Wow, that's a lot, and probably Europe doesn't have the other chance. They need to support Ukraine, because the main threat for Europe is actually Russia, and Russia is busy now in Ukraine, so they want to make Ukraine very powerful to kick Russians' ass. And apparently it's the only strategy left for Europe, to reinforce their own armies and to help Ukraine a lot, because there will be no backup from United States of America while Donald Trump is president. Well, we'll see if this is really correct, if Europe is going to do so, because it's very difficult to make any sort of the decisions in European Union. But in general, the idea is good. Europe should reinforce its own military. It shouldn't rely on the United States any longer. Like any sort of the country in the world actually shouldn't rely any longer on the United States, judging on what is happening in Ukraine. Ukraine gave up its nuclear weapons, signing Budapest Memorandum. Then one of the countries which signed that memorandum attacked on Ukraine, and the other country refused to support Ukraine in a full scale. For all of those years, Ukraine just obtained the limited support, and Europe helped more, if we speak about money, to Ukraine compared to United States of America. Even though European Union by the time didn't sign this Budapest Memorandum. And moreover, United States now takes Russian side, calling it America first, but instead America will be just isolated United States of America. No one would like to have the deal, any sort of the deal with the United States of America, whether it's security or economy deals, because we see how Donald Trump applies tariffs on Canada, on Mexico, on the European Union. He also said about it that there will be tariffs. Moreover, he stated that the European Union was created to oppose United States. So yeah, Trump is fighting with allies, but he doesn't touch Russia and China. By the way, China here gets the most of the profit. For example, let's take the news from today. United States halts funding for programs to combat HIV, malaria and polio. The Trump administration has already cancelled 5,800 USAID contracts in Africa. And who would like to expand its influence, especially towards Africa? Obviously China. So China will introduce their own programs for African people. I think they should call it even China Aid, just to troll United States of America, to show how they expand their influence, replacing the influence of USA. And you know guys, it goes the same for international companies. Why should we work with the United States, which applies tariffs on us or will apply in the future? Then we can just work with China. China produces everything, so let's make the contract with them and let's do business with China. So for the last months, Trump did an enormous damage to Americans' reputation, and it will be very hard to restore it, but Donald Trump just started to be a president for his second term, so more trash is coming.
I think we are headed possibly, I don't want to overstate this, I don't want to be overly dramatic, but we could be looking at the last days of NATO. And
That's the statement of a former Supreme Allied Commander James Stavridis. He thinks that the United States will not only abandon Ukraine, but also NATO itself. And you know, Elon Musk, a real United States president, already confirms those ideas. So some Delulu says it's time to leave NATO and United Nations. I agree, says Elon. If it happens, it would be a greatest Russians' victory since the Cold War. Yeah, even during the Cold War, there were no such victories for Soviet Union. So guys, if it happens, it would potentially lead to the Third World War indeed, because NATO is the alliance which provided security for the vast territory of our globe. Because of NATO, many of the potential wars were avoided in 20th century. But imagine now some sort of the Caribbean crisis and Donald Trump is in charge of United States of America. So yeah, in a way for me it's kind of scary for the future of humanity. And we see how also it is important for our friends in Asia, South Korea, Japan, and also Taiwan, so I start to worry about it because there are tons of the provocations from China in that part of the globe. And if you know, Japan after the Second World War is quite limited with its military, so now they want to increase the cooperation with South Korea, also United States of America. But can we rely on the United States of America? Yes, there is the agreement for defense of Japan from the United States, but Japan is not a NATO member or something, so Trump may say, okay, Japan, it's up to you to defend yourself from North Korea or something. You should have invested in your army well before, but Japan is very, very limited in its military capabilities. That's why it's important to boost relations with South Korea, which has a bigger army and more military capabilities. And I think that the restriction for Japan army should be lifted. It should be allowed to have big army. It's no longer a Japan of the Second World War. No, it's totally different. Otherwise, countries like China and North Korea in cooperation, they may do lots of the harm to our allies. And yeah, about that conference in Oval Office, the scandal was pre-planned by Trump's team. The Trump's idea is to humiliate Zelensky and to exclude Zelensky from the possible future negotiations between United States, Russia, and probably between Russia and Ukraine. Trump still thinks that there could be elections in Ukraine, and whoever is the next president, he would like to give Russia some of the territories and sign capitulation. But the real thing is that Ukrainians would never elect in a honest election that kind of the president, and I don't think that United States, they do really have capabilities to influence Ukrainian elections. Our people understand who is a real enemy. It's Russian Federation, and our partners are now Europe, not the United States. At least with the current president, because he does everything possible for Ukraine to capitulate. He wants to make a deal with Russia, his own personal deal, because Russia has resources and the United States needs those resources. They want to open markets for Russia, they want to lift sanctions, and the only obstacle for Trump to do business as usual is Ukraine. And here Zelensky as a leader of Ukraine. Trump absolutely doesn't care about the massacres which Russians done in Ukraine. He doesn't care about Ukrainian people, what they want. He would just like to sell Ukraine for Russia because he sees profit in that. That's the reality of this orange buffoon who took power in the United States of America, but he is so stupid that he actually made Zelensky more popular. For now, I see a huge backfire to Donald Trump, and I see that Americans, they start to support Zelensky and Ukraine even more. There is the vast part of American population who just hate Donald Trump, and they do a right thing. And guys, Americans, if you watch me and if you support Ukraine and democracy, you are on the bright side of a history and also your resistance. And you know, despite the policy of your leaders, you may personally still support Ukraine. I'm not even saying financially, but you may do it online, because the battle for minds is happening online. There are less and less people who watch TV, so your activity on the right side in internet may actually change the situation. You might think that it doesn't matter, like people say, oh, my vote doesn't matter, but actually it matters a lot. So repost, share, like, comment, not just my videos, but the videos which will help democracy to regain the power in the United States of America. Otherwise, there's gonna be chaos, not just in the United States, but elsewhere. Trump, Putin, Xi, Kim Jong-un, Iranian leaders, they all want to destroy the old order. in which we were all living more or less peacefully, but now there are tremendous risks for us. And that's why, my friends, I'm here with you speaking English. It's not my native language. I would like to speak Russian or Ukrainian. I do it because I want to fight disinformation which is coming from Russia or from MAGA. That's why we have tons of the Russian bots in the comment section, or MAGA bots, because they want to fight truth. Well, my friends, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.